Pratah smarami hridi samsfuradaatma-tattvam Satchit sukham paramaham sagatim turiyam Yat swapna jagara sushuptimavaiti nityam Tad brahma nishkalamaham nacha bhuta sangaha Tapo bhikshina papana Shantanam vitaragina Mumukshunam apekshoyam Atmabodho vidhiyate Bodhonya sadhanebhyo hi Sakshan mokshaika sadhanam Pakasya vahni vajnanam Vina moksho na siddhyati. Hari Om. We will continue where we left off yesterday with the gems of Bhagavad Gita. We are on chapter 7 of the Gita. We are taking the gems, the essential verses from chapter 7. Chapter 7 is called the Yoga of Knowledge and Wisdom, Gyan Vigyan Yoga. And this is because in the very first verse, Bhagavan guarantees that in this chapter and in this text, he will give knowledge along with wisdom. He'll explain the knowledge so comprehensively that it will help you understand. It will help you gain a deeper understanding. It will remove all sorts of misunderstandings about God, about spirituality, about the path, about evolution. And he begins the first few verses, as we discussed yesterday. He begins with indicative definitions of God, of Brahman. What is Brahman? What is God? Remember, I said yesterday, all of these definitions cannot capture God. God, Bhagwan, is beyond intellect. आपकी बुद्धि समझ नहीं सकती भगवान क्या है. But your intellect can get a direction. This knowledge, these ideas, these concepts will give you a direction. Just as on a highway, the milestones give you a direction that you are on the right path towards your destination. You're on the right path. You're getting closer towards your destination. Just as milestones give you an assurance, give you a direction. Similarly, these definitions give you a direction. They point towards God. They point towards an understanding of God. Ultimately, आप भगवान को तभी जानोगे when you gain samadhi. ध्यान के द्वारा जब आप समाधि की स्थिति तक पहुंचोगे, तभी आप भगवान से जुड़ोगे, आप भगवान को जान पाओगे. Until then, it is just an intellectual concept. Until then, it is just an emotional feeling. But these concepts help pinpoint, direct us towards what is God. And so yesterday we saw a few indicative definitions. Bhagwan is all pervading. Bhagwan is the substratum. Sabka aadhar hai Bhagwan. Just as fabric is the substratum of your piece of clothing. इस कुर्ते का substratum क्या है? कपड़ा है. ये तो सही एग्जाम्पल नहीं है, अच्छी एग्जाम्पल नहीं है. आप सपोज आप ले लो, you take a shirt with a lot of print or with a lot of embroidery work. Take a kurta. What is beneath that embroidery? What is beneath that print? What is supporting that print? What is supporting that embroidery is the fabric. Everywhere in the shirt, there is fabric. The shirt, the fabric is all pervading in the shirt. The gold is all pervading in the bangle. The ocean is all pervading. Water is all pervading in the ocean. So God is this all pervading substratum. And then we ended yesterday with a very important concept about the gunas. The gunas belong to matter. The gunas come from God, but God does not lie in the gunas. God does not have gunas. Brahman is nirguna. Bhagavan nirgun hai. The gunas, they come from Bhagavan. They arise from Bhagavan. But Bhagavan doesn't have gunas. Gunas belong to matter, all objects, all things, all beings, all people have gunas, have qualities. You have qualities, I have qualities. These qualities belong to your material equipments, to your body, to your mind, your intellect. Any being, anything has gunas. These gunas belong to the body, the mind, the intellect. The self in you, the Atman in you is gunatita. The all-pervading Brahman is gunatita, is beyond the gunas. Broadly, there are 3 gunas. I'm sure you all are familiar with what the 3 gunas are. Tamas, Rajas, and Sattva. Tamogun, Rajogun, or Sattvic gun. Sattva is the highest gun. Rajas is mediocre. Tamas is the lowest. Broadly speaking, if we had to classify all beings, all people, you are different from me, I am different from you, you are different from a third person, you are different from your sibling, you are different from your spouse, you are different from your friend. Why? Because you have different gunas from them. You are some proportion of sattva, rajas, tamas. Another person is another proportion of sattva, rajas, tamas. Maybe you have 20% sattva, 50% rajas, 30% tamas. Another person will have 30% sattva, 30% rajas, 40% tamas. The variety, the proportion makes all the difference. Everybody has sattva, rajas, tamas in them. Everybody is a mixture of sattva, rajas, tamas. Nobody is all tamas. Nobody is all rajas. Nobody is all sattva. But the proportion matters. So suppose you have 70% sattva, you are largely a sattvic person. A very sattvic person also has some rajas in him, also has some tamas in him. It'll be hard to provoke a sattvic person. It'll be hard to bring about an egoistic reaction in a sattvic person. It'll be hard to insult a sattvic person, but maybe if you go beyond the point, they might get insulted. It is very easy to insult a rajasic person. They are very conscious of their name. They are very conscious of their how they are perceived, how others think about them. So the proportion matters. The proportion is all the difference. You are different from me because you have a different proportion of sattva, rajas, tamas than me. And in the spiritual path, what are we doing in the spiritual path? Bhagavan is gunatita. We're trying to reach Bhagavan. We're trying to merge with God. We're trying to go beyond tamas, rajas, sattva. That's what we're trying to do. We are lost. We are entangled. We are completely enmeshed in these gunas. I repeat, we are lost, entangled, completely enmeshed in these gunas. We are caught up in them. So our purpose, our goal, ultimate goal is to become gunatita, go beyond tamas, go beyond rajas, go beyond sattva. Now the question is how? The question is how do we go beyond the gunas? You might be thinking, isn't sattva a good guna? Shouldn't we have sattva? Absolutely. The way to rise above gunas, you have to go step by step. You have to remove your tamas, you have to remove your rajas, and you have to increase the proportion of sattva. I repeat, you have to remove your tamas. How will you remove your tamas? You can't remove your tamas overnight. You have to remove your tamas with rajas. Anybody who's tamasic, anybody who's lazy, anybody who's indifferent, anybody who's lethargic, you have to show him a carrot. Most organizations, most businesses, where there is where employees will be tamasic, what do you need to make them act? What do you need to bring energy into their actions? To inspire them, you need incentives. You need a carrot. You need to show them a carrot. And you also need a stick. If they're not performing, you need a stick. So to get someone out of tamas, you need to feed rajas. And only a rajasic person can try to become sattvic. A tamasic person cannot become sattvic. You cannot jump. It's unlikely. It's unlikely. A tamasic person cannot even understand the value of sattva, cannot understand the value of knowledge. So, tamas you have to remove by feeding rajas. Rajas you have to slowly transform into sattva. You have to slowly shed your ego, your craving, your uncontrolled desire. With knowledge, you have to regulate, you have to moderate. That is how you will increase your sattva, by removing this rajas, by getting rid of rajas. And when you become predominantly sattvic, as you keep increasing your sattva by removing tamas and rajas, you become more and more spiritual until you become trans-sattvic. As you increase your sattva, what does sattva do? What is the role of sattva? The role of sattva is to make you calm, composed, equanimous, controlled. Such a sattvic person alone can meditate. Such a sattvic person alone can practice the highest spiritual disciplines. And through dhyan, you reach that ultimate state, which is beyond sattva itself. So yes, the goal, the ultimate purpose is to go beyond the gunas, is to become gunatita, to go beyond tamas, rajas and sattva. But this is the process. You have to first tackle your tamas with rajas, then remove your rajas with sattva. And ultimately, sattva will transform into transattva. Sattva will transform into that ultimate state, which is beyond tamas, rajas and sattva, through dhyanam. So this is the stage we have to go. What is important to understand is Brahman, God, is nirguna. It's beyond the gunas. That is what you have to remember. Now, why am I saying all of this? Because all of these are indicative definitions of God. But अगर मैं पहले बता दूं कि Brahman nirgun है, then you will not be able to appreciate it. You will not be able to understand it. This is the great job done in this country, in this tradition, in this Hindu tradition. Our saints and sages, they have done an incredible work. They have made God relatable. They have given you stories of God, first of all, in a human form. हम कह रहे हैं कि भगवान निर्गुण है, फिर भी we see God in a form, with gunas, with a body. How is that possible? God doesn't have a body. But thinking of God with a body makes it relatable. Thinking of God as a friend, thinking of God as a child. The relationship between Ma Yashoda and Krishna, Bhagwan Krishna. Thinking of God as a friend, thinking of God as a guide. We have all sorts of ways in which we think of God. We have all sorts of avenues. जहां हम देखें, जहां इस ट्रेडिशन में जहां भी जाओ, वहां पे भगवान को विराजमान कर दिया गया है. If you're chasing wealth, वहां लक्ष्मी जी को रखा गया है. If you're chasing knowledge, you have Lord God, Goddess Saraswati. If you're chasing success, you have Lord Ganesha. Every aspect of this tradition has been divinized. And why is that? The purpose of the spiritual path is to start making you think about God. That's it. The purpose of the spiritual path, why you are here right now, why we are having these classes, is to start making you think about these questions. Start making you think about, how is all of this come about? How have I landed up here? What is the power behind all of this? What is controlling this? To start making you think about God. But very few people are capable of that, including you and me. We cannot think about this thing all day, all night. It's not possible. Very few people can stay with that thought, stay with that awareness. It takes a great Janaka, the great King Janaka, who stayed with that awareness. Some of you may have studied the Ashtavakra Gita. We taught it last year. How did the Ashtavakra Gita come about? The Ashtavakra Gita is a conversation between sage Ashtavakra and King Janaka. How did that conversation come about? King Janaka was sleeping and he woke up from a dream. And in the dream, he was dreaming that he was a beggar. The great King Janaka, who ruled the mighty land, dreamt that he was a beggar. And he woke up. He woke up frightened. He woke up with a sharp awareness. And he asked everyone, all his wise people around him, tell me, am I this king right now who was dreaming that I was the beggar? Am I this king? Am I Janaka who was dreaming right now that I am the beggar? Or am I the beggar who is now dreaming I am the king? Am I the beggar who is now dreaming that I am a king? Am I imagining myself to be this king, but am I actually the beggar? Or am I the king who was earlier imagining myself to be a beggar? Who am I? What am I? How has all of this come about? What is the nature of this existence? These questions are, even if you ask them occasionally in passing, you forget about it. Aadhe ghante ke liye you ask these questions, we discuss it, and then, okay, let's move on. Time for dinner. I'm being very, very honest. In the ashram, Swamiji said we shouldn't have class for more than 45 minutes, 1 hour. More than 1 hour, no classes. Why? Because after you reach 45, 50 minutes, you studied the highest knowledge. But then after that, you're thinking, I'm feeling hungry. Time to go for dinner. In the evening class. In the evening class. So the mind naturally cannot keep these subtle thoughts, cannot stay with these thoughts. It takes a great Janaka. Janaka was in this state of awareness for days and days until he met Sage Ashtavakra. So you need to be a Janaka to stay with this thought. So it's very hard. What I'm trying to say is, it is very hard to stick with this thought of God, to even think of God. So what did the sages of this country do? It is difficult to take your mind to God. It is difficult to take your mind to these subtle questions, to these ideas, to these concepts, nirguna, sarvagata, all pervading. It's difficult to comprehend these things. So it's difficult to take your mind there. So wherever your mind goes, they planted God. You cannot take your mind to God. Okay. Wherever your mind is going, let us plant God there. Let us plant God there. So your mind is going to wealth. Let us plant Lakshmi. Your mind is going to knowledge. Your mind is going to success. Your mind is going to health. Wherever your mind is going to your equipments, your machinery, your tools. Every aspect of this tradition has been divinized. We worship Vishwakarma. We worship Ganesha. We worship Lakshmi. Every day is some kind of worship. Why? Every day is a reminder of the Lord. So these forms, these ways of thinking about God help you connect with God. But this is not God. Devi Devtas are a reminder of God, are a form of God. But God doesn't have 20 hands. This is what you have to understand. This is what you have to understand. These 20 hands of God only indicate the infinite power of God. So every aspect was divinized only to help your mind. But if you want to grow in your spiritual understanding, later in this chapter, Bhagavan कहते हैं, those of little intelligence, think of me as manifest. Those of little intelligence think that I am in this form. Those of little intelligence think that I am having this body. Those of little intelligence think that I was walking this earth. No, I am unmanifest. Bhagwan, Brahman is unmanifest. But to relate to that idea is difficult. So to help you relate to God, the sages of this great country have divinized every aspect with the hope, that one day you will ask the deeper question, but what is God? I'm praying to this, I'm worshiping this, but what is God? To gain a deeper understanding. That's the hope that they have. So, on that note, we will come to the next gem. So, Brahman is Nirguna, Brahman is Sarvagata, all pervading, and Brahman is the substratum, the Adhar of everything. Those are the indicative definitions. Difficult to grasp, but indicating us, helping us remove misconceptions about what we have, what we know about God. Next, we come to the 4 types of worshippers. So Bhagavan says, a lot of people come to me. Lot of people come to me. Lot of good people, he says, virtuous people come to me. A lot of people seek me for various reasons. What are those reasons? And what is the ideal? What is the best? Who is the best among my worshippers? He will tell us in verse number 16 and 17, the 4 types of worshippers. Chaturvedha bhajante mam jana sukritinorjuna arto jignasurartharthi Nyani cha bharatarshabha Chaturvedha bhajante mam jana sukritinorjuna arto jignasurartharthi Nyani cha bharatarshabha. Hey Arjun, 4 तरह के उत्तम कर्म करने वाले लोग मुझे भजते हैं. हे भरतर्षभ, दुखी, अर्थ को चाहने वाले, जिज्ञासु तथा ज्ञानी. 4 तरह के उत्तम कर्म करने वाले लोग मुझे भजते हैं. There are 4 kinds of worship people, people who worship me, virtuous people who worship me, O Arjuna. The Artha, the distressed, the dukhi. The Jignasu, the seeker of knowledge. The Artharthi, the seeker of wealth. And the Jnani, the wise. O Bharatarshava, O bull among Bharatas, O best among Bharatas. Here are the 4 different kinds of worshippers. Be the best among the worshippers. That's why he's using this name for Arjuna. He's calling him Bharatarshava, Bharata Rishabha, bull among Bharatas, best among Bharatas. There are 4 kinds of virtuous people who worship me. First of all, he's calling them virtuous people. Many kind of people come to me. They are all virtuous. Why are they virtuous? Uttam karm karne wale. Why are they virtuous? Because they are not vicious. They have desires. They have desires, but they're not vicious. One second. They have desires, but they're not vicious. You can have desire for wealth, and you can have such a strong, vicious desire that you want wealth at any cost. You want wealth at any cost. You are willing to cheat others, steal from others. That's a vicious desire. But you may want wealth, but you may have higher values. You may want to achieve it by noble means. You may want to be fair. So there's nothing wrong in that desire. You're a noble person. Yes, you have a desire, and you're trying to pursue it in a noble fashion, in a noble way. So that is why you are virtuous. So there are 4 kinds of virtuous people. 4 kinds of virtuous people who worship me, who come to me, who seek my support, who remember me. Who are those people? The Artha, those who are distressed, who are going through some sort of emotional problem, some sort of struggle. 90% of people come to the Lord when they're going through some sort of struggle. I'm not criticizing. I am not criticizing, please. This is a fact. And there's nothing wrong in it. There is nothing wrong in it. But 90% of people, 99% of people remember the Lord when there is some kind of problem, some kind of distress. And they seek solace. They seek reassurance. They seek support. They are surrendering to the Lord because they are helpless. The problems in their life that have overcome them, they are seeking some kind of solace, some kind of solution. आप इस problem का हल ढूंढ के दो मुझे भगवान. That's the attitude with which most of us come to God. When we run out of solutions in the world, we remember God. The Arthas, looking for some sort of solace. This is not a criticism, please. Because the Lord helps the Arthas. If you are distressed, this knowledge, this bhakti, this devotion will support you, will help you through the toughest of times. So this is not a criticism of such people. You can find great solace in this knowledge. Many people have. I'm sure many of you have. Then there are the Arthas, the seekers of wealth, those who come with some sort of hope and aspiration, who have a desire for wealth, who have a desire for money, who have a desire for success, for prosperity, and they pray to the Lord. They come to the Lord because they believe the Lord will support them. Lakshmi Puja, Ganesh Puja, Ye Puja, Wo Puja. There's nothing wrong in any of this. He's not criticizing them. But what is your end desire? You're hoping, you're wishing that the Lord will help you fulfill your desire. You may be putting in all the effort, no doubt about it. You may be saying, I am putting up all my effort. Help me achieve this, oh Lord. Give me the clarity, give me the strength to put in all the effort to achieve success out here. So you may be a very noble person. Remember, he's calling them virtuous people. So that is the Arthas who's coming to the Lord praying, help me succeed. Make me successful. Give me that strength to succeed. Why? For Artha, for wealth, for success. And then there is the Jignasus, the seeker of knowledge. They have a strong desire to know, to learn, to understand, to compare. They're intellectual. They just want to learn more. They want to become pandits, the seeker of knowledge. They want to go through a variety of books and texts and scriptures and gain a better understanding. No harm in that. They want to fulfill their desire for knowledge, the jignasus. So these are the three kind of people who come to worship God with the desire that God will help them fulfill these desires, with the hope that God will help them fulfill these desires. And then there is the wise, the Nyani, the fourth kind of worshipper who comes to the Lord. Out here, Jnani means the wise one who wants to merge with God, the wise one who wants to realize God, the wise one who wants to know God. Such a person doesn't come with the hope to fulfill any desires. This is the biggest difference between a Jnani and any other three people. The difference between Artha, Jignasu, and Artharthi on one side and the Jnani on the other side. What is the difference? The Artha, the Jignasu, the Artharthi, they come with a desire, some desire to fulfill, hoping that God will help them fulfill it. The Jnani comes to God with the hope, with the only wish to reduce his desires. Oh Lord, whatever is meant for me, please give me. I don't need anything. I don't want anything. I only want to merge with you. I only want to realize you. I only want to meet you. My only goal, I have realized that my purpose in life is to merge with you. Whatever actions you need me to do out here, you need me to execute, please make me the medium of that. I have no other desire. I don't want anything to be fulfilled. That Jnani who comes with the desire, with the only desire to realize the self, realize God, merge with God. Bhagwan ki se judne ki ichha. That is the only ichha in a Jnani. No other desire, no other thought. These are the four kinds of worshippers, O Bharatarshava. The Artha, the Jignasu, the Artharthi, and the Jnani. Now, what I want to point out is, it doesn't matter why you come. It doesn't matter why you come. You may have come as an Jignasu, wanting to learn more. You may have come as an Artha, seeking some kind of solace. But with a little bit of knowledge, you may have gained deeper clarity. You may have understood there is much more to this knowledge. There is much more to this path than simply fulfilling my desires, than simply removing my distress, than simply fulfilling my craving for knowledge. There is something deeper. There is something more to know. There is a longer journey to tread. You may have this, dimag ki batti aapki jal sakti hai with a little bit of knowledge. So it matters not why you come, it matters why you stay. Why are you coming back again and again to this class? Why do you want to study this? You may have come because of some kind of distress. That's okay. And this knowledge may have helped you. But why are you here again? That is the question you have to ask yourself. What is the Shraddha in you now? What sort of Shraddha are you developing now? So the hope is, for any teacher, for these classes, the hope is that you slowly develop the spiritual desire, to evolve spiritually, to reduce your desires. That's it. That's the only reason. That's the only reason to worship God. I repeat, the highest reason, the best reason, the only reason to remember God is to merge with God. And how will you merge with God? By reducing your desires, by getting rid of your desires. Slowly but surely. So be a Jnani, he says. In the next verse, Bhagavan says, be a Jnani. Of them, the Jnani is dear to me. See, remember I said, from chapter 7 to 12, we'll begin the theme of bhakti. And he's using the language of a bhakta. He's appealing to the bhakta. For a bhakta, for a devotee, what matters? Am I close to God? If you're really devoted to your guru, am I close to my guru? If you're really devoted to your teacher, am I close to my boss? It matters to you. It matters to your emotions. So for a bhakta, what matters to a bhakta? Am I close to God? Does God also like me? So Bhagavan here caters to that devotee. He says, you want to be a true devotee? Be a Jnani. Verse number 17 of chapter 7. The Jnani is dear to me. And a Jnani alone excels. A Jnani excels. He says in verse number 17. Tesham Jnani Nitya Yuktaha Eka Bhaktir Vishishyate Priyo Hijnani No Thyartham Aham Sacha Mama Priyaha Tesham Jnani Nitya Yuktaha Eka Bhaktir Vishishyate Priyo Hijnani Nyotyartham Aham Sacha Mama Priyaha. उनमें भी नित्य युक्त एक भक्ति भाव वाला ज्ञानी अति उत्तम है, क्योंकि ज्ञानियों को मैं अधिक प्रिय हूं और वे मुझको प्रिय हैं. Of them, the Jnani, of the four worshippers we discussed in the previous verse, the Jnani, the wise, ever steadfast with single pointed devotion. Eka bhakti, ever steadfast, nitya yukta. Of them, the Jnani, ever steadfast with single pointed devotion, excels. For I am extremely dear to the Jnani. The Jnani only wants me, that's it, nothing else. Ask yourself, why do you go to God? What is dear to you? थोड़ी सी तू लिफ्ट कराते आप पूछते हो भगवान को. Is God dear to you or the wealth dear to you? You're going to God with your problems. God, please help me solve this problem. Please make sure my son overcomes this difficulty. My child overcomes this difficulty. Who is priya to you? Who is dear to you? Is God dear to you or your family member dear to you? He says, for I am extremely dear to the Jnani and he is dear to me, and vice versa. He is also dear to me. So, among the four worshippers, highest among them is the Jnani. Why? Because, first of all, Nitya Yuktaha, ever steadfast. He's not casual in his worship. He's not occasional in his worship. The Artha, if you remain an Artha, the one who is distressed, you will remember God when there is a problem. And as soon as the problem goes away, you will forget God. There's no steadfastness. There's no consistency. If you're an Artharthi, when before the deal, before the success, before the completion of the project, you're remembering God. Oh God, please help me succeed. Please help me succeed. And after the project, after the success, how much will you remember God? If you're only an Artharthi, but a Jnani is ever steadfast, one who has a constant remembrance of the Lord, one who keeps the Lord in his mind at all times, single pointed devotion, with single pointed devotion, no other devotion, no other interest. Everything is a means to the Lord. What matters, the only purpose of his life, of a Jnani, is to ultimately merge with the Lord. Whatever path he is treading, that is his ultimate goal, and he is absolutely clear about that. To merge with the Lord, to realize God, to realize the self within. That is his only goal. So, be a Jnani, he says. Why? For I am extremely dear to the Jnani. So, something worth asking yourself. When you go to God, when you go to pray, prayer is not beggary. Prayer is not about asking. Please. Prayer is not beggary. Prayer is not about asking. The true meaning of prayer is remembrance. What are you doing in prayer? You're simply reminding yourself. You're simply bringing your awareness to God. 5 times a day. 10 times a day. How many other times a day? You're simply reminding yourself. Prayer is not a time to ask God for anything. No. The true meaning of prayer is simply remembering, reminding yourself, bringing your awareness. Because throughout the day, you are caught up. Throughout the day, you're simply chasing. You're chasing wealth, you're chasing success, you're chasing name, you're chasing fame, you're chasing knowledge, you're chasing joy, you're chasing sensual pleasures. Throughout the day, that's what you're doing. How many times in a day are you remembering God? That is the value of prayer. That is the purpose of prayer. The purpose of prayer is simply to remind yourself, I'm going through all these experiences, but what is my true purpose? The point is we have forgotten. We've come here, but we don't remember why we have come. It reminds me of a story, a parable, which I'll share with you. There was a king. I'm sure some of you have heard this parable. There was a king who had no children. So the king wanted to find a successor. The king wanted to find a successor. He had no children, no heir. But he wanted to find someone who, of course, was qualified. Not anyone or everyone. So someone who was dedicated, who really wanted this. What is the value of a king? The value of a king, the value of anybody who is in power, is that he will not get enamored by smaller things. The value of anyone in power is that he will not be easily corrupted. He'll not be easily distracted. If you're easily corruptible, you don't deserve to be in power. Because when you have power, a lot of things come to you. Suppose you're made forget prime minister. Suppose you're made a local in charge of your resident welfare association also. Suppose you're made in charge. Immediately there's a lot of power in you. You can do a lot of things. Everybody contributes money to you on a monthly basis, and you manage the accounts. Very easily you can do something with that money for yourself. You can siphon off money here or there. So you have that power. If you're easily corruptible, then you don't deserve to be in that position. If you're easily distracted, if you're easily distracted by that, then you don't deserve to be in that position. So the value of someone in power, the value of a leader, the value of a king is that you're not easily distracted by other things. So the king was looking for someone like this. King was looking for someone who would not be easily distracted. So he said, I am looking for my successor. Anyone in the kingdom is qualified. Anyone in my kingdom can participate. I have one test. So every year in the kingdom, there was a big mela. Big Mela, everyone, all sorts of people from everywhere came, all sorts of mm, entertainment, all sorts of food stalls, ye, wo, sab kuch. All families came, everybody from the corner of the kingdom came for this Mela. Lots of tents were set up. So the king said, I will go into this Mela. I will go into this Mela disguised. I'll not be recognizable easily. Whoever wants to participate to become the king, you have to come to this Mela and find me. You have to come to this Mela and find me. So a lot of people went to participate. Yes, there were a lot of people who signed up for this. And on the day of the Mela, the king went disguised. And hundreds of people came to participate in this. And everyone was excited in the beginning. Yes, I'm going to find the king and I'm going to become the next king. And as soon as they went into the Mela and they began very earnestly in their search, and soon somebody got distracted by some kind of food stall. Somebody got distracted by some other shopping. Somebody got distracted by some other ride, some other entertainment. Somebody got distracted by some other show, some circus. Everybody got distracted. Only one person among the hundreds did not let any of these distractions take him away. And he kept his focus. He kept his awareness. I have to find the king. And he saw in one corner a small tent. And he went there. And there was a frail man sitting there. But he recognized, maybe that's the king. I think that's the king. He's disguised. And he went up to him. Are you the king? And that man was the king. That old frail man disguised was actually the king. So this man achieved his purpose. This man became the next king. The king had found a successor. Everybody else was lost. Everybody else was attracted by these temporary pleasures, attracted by these distractions. Why is the story important? The story is important because it is the life of you and me. We're all distracted by innumerable things. We've all landed here with one purpose alone. But we have forgotten that purpose. We have forgotten why we have come here. We are distracted. We keep thinking, oh, yes. Let me just explore this. Let me just enjoy this. I will come study Vedanta a little later, some other time. Nowadays, I'm very busy. I'm finding it very hard. I don't want you all to come and study this. That's not the point. But very few people have the time because why? We are all caught up. We are all enmeshed. We all have forgotten that this, understanding this, realizing this, remembering this is our true purpose. So what is worship? What is prayer? I'm coming back to that. That is why I stated this example. The purpose of prayer is remembrance. Because throughout the day, throughout every day, we are lost in the mela of life. We are lost in all sorts of attractions, all sorts of distractions. So to remind yourself of your purpose, to remember God, is the only purpose of prayer. That is what a Nyani does. He's not an Arthas. He's not an Artharthi. He's not a Jignasu. He simply wants to remember the Lord, remind himself of his goal. So with that thought, we'll end today's class. Be a Jnani. We'll discuss further from tomorrow. Same time, same place, 7 a.m. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.